I never expected my mute daughter to find her voice, but a black single MOM changed everything. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The room was heavy with silence, thick like a fog, wrapping around us. Leah sat there, her small hands trembling in her lap, eyes wide, like a deer caught in headlights. I could see the weight of unspoken words piling up behind her lips. My heart ached. It wasn't he always like this? Memories of laughter echoed faintly in the back of my mind. Leah's bright giggles filled our home once, before the accident took the sound away. She was 4, full of dreams, hopes, and the purest joy. But after the crash, after the doctor said mute like it was a label to define her, everything changed. My little girl became a ghost of who she was. I wanted to reach into that silence, pull her back. Every day, I watched her struggle to communicate, her frustration mirrored in my own heart. Then we met her, the single mom who seemed to come out of nowhere. Bella, with her wild hair, wearing an oversized hoodie, and a smile that could light the darkest corners of my soul. She had her own daughter Jojo, who was Leah's age. They met one Tuesday at the park. Bella was different. She was loud, confident, and didn't see Leah's silence as a disability, but as an invitation to connect. Jojo raced around the swings while Bella called out encouragement, a sweet chaos. "Hey! Who asked that shy girl over there?" she shouted, glancing at Leah. The way Leah looked up, surprised, I felt my heart flutter in my chest. Bella's energy was magnetic. She didn't wait for permission. She charged forward, crouched next to her, and whispered, "You're not alone." Tears gathered in my eyes. But then strange things began to happen. Jojo started to mimic Leah's silent movements. Small gestures that felt intentional, almost like she knew a secret. Leah watched, her frustration easing, as Jojo's laughter spilled into the air. It was surreal, like magic unfolding before my eyes. That when whispers crept through the playground, parents exchanging glances, suspicion lingering in the air. "Why isn't Leah talking?" they would murmur. Something must be wrong. The looks of judgment stung like needles. But what did they know? They didn't see what I saw, the spark of connection rising, the hope that blossomed even amongst the thorns of despair. Leah began to respond to Jojo's sounds, small smiles curling at the corners of her mouth. I held my breath, my heart racing, praying for one syllable, one word to break free, and then it happened. One crisp autumn afternoon, the air sharp with the scent of fallen leaves, I watched them play. Bella was laughing, Jojo dancing, and Leah, my Leah, took a deep breath. I could see the determination on her face, her lips quivering, and in that moment, the world felt impossibly still. Just as she was about to speak, a cold breeze swept through, chilling the atmosphere, and a sharp scream pierced the air. Someone yelled, "Look out!" I spun around, my heart dropping to my stomach. I couldn't see who or what, but my entire body tensed, fear marching its way through my veins. Suddenly, everything froze. Leah's eyes widened even more, the action frozen in the air, the words she might have said hanging like a fragile thread. "What happened?" I gasped, my voice trembling. I turned back to Leah, desperate to know if she managed to find her voice, if that moment of hope was snatched away. "Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The park erupted into chaos. I could hear panicked cries from parents grabbing their children, the shrill wail of an approaching siren cutting through the air like a knife. My heart raced as I scanned the area, my eyes searching for my daughter. Leah looked paralyzed, staring wide-eyed at whatever had caused the commotion. In the distance, I glimpsed a small crowd forming around a fallen child, her small body sprawled on the ground. The sickening sensation in my stomach twisted tighter as I recognized JoJo's pink backpack lying abandoned nearby, its vibrant color contrasting sharply with the dirt. Bella, sensing the emergency first, was already rushing towards the scene, her figure a blur of movement. "Lee!" I called, desperation clawing at my throat. She remained frozen, as if rooted by the weight of fear. I wanted to reach out, to pull her away from this nightmare and hide her in my arms forever. But there was a pull, a force I couldn't understand that seemed to bind her to JoJo, palpable and heavy. "Mommy!" JoJo's voice broke through the chaos, wobbly and scared. I pushed through the gathering adults, my heart shattered at the sight of Bella kneeling beside her daughter, panic and grief mingling on her face. The world threatened to tilt sideways as I felt Leah's hand slip into mine, her tiny fingers trembling as they clung to me. I pulled Leah closer and whispered urgently, "We need to go, baby. Now!" But instead of moving, she shook her head softly, her eyes glued to JoJo, who was being cradled by Bella. I felt my heart split in two, one side wanting to flee, to escape the pain, and the other side, the side that had been nurtured by Bella's warmth, wishing to stay and provide hope to this wounded little girl. If sensing my internal struggle, Leah took a tentative step forward, her feet shaking, tears brimming in her eyes. Then, in that moment, she surprised me. Without any hesitation, she took a deep breath and let out a shaky JoJo. Her voice was small, like the whisper of wind through the trees, but to me, it was thunderous, a crack in the silence that had enveloped our lives for so long. I felt pride wash over me, blooming alongside the fear I carried. But before I could reach for Leah, JoJo's eyes half opened, flooding with light as she turned her head toward my daughter. "Leah?" she whispered, her voice trembling, powerless yet enchanting. Another gulp of breath escaped from Leah's lips, and I could see the determination rebuilding as the chaos around us faded, transforming into a bubble where hope and innocence existed once again. However, as JoJo's eyes fluttered closed, an unnerving dissonance broke through my celebration. The sirens grew louder, and my heart sank as I noticed Bella shielding JoJo, her own face streaked with despair. They were moments away from being taken to a hospital, and I could sense my connection fraying as they whisked her away into the depths of uncertainty. With each step back from JoJo, my heart broke little by little, and Leah's voice faded into the wind. She had spoken, but did it really matter if her friend was gone? I desperately wished to comfort Leah, but the powerlessness of the moment pulled at me like a dark cloud. "Leah, Han, let us get out of here," I urged again, panic clawing at my insides. But as she turned to me, I saw something in her eyes that I had never seen before, a flickering flame of urgency, as if she were awakening from a long slumber. "JoJo," she called again, louder this time, fear and worry warring on her face. My heart swelled with a new kind of fear. Was this her chance to find her voice? And in doing so, would she lose what had just been discovered? "No, Leah," I pleaded, my voice cracking. "We need to go." But her feet moved stubbornly toward the crowd. Her desire to help overwhelmed her sense of self-preservation. And just as I reached out, someone grasped my shoulder, pulling me back momentarily. I turned to face Bella, her eyes filled with gratitude, sorrow, and an unquenchable spirit. "Keep her close," she whispered, urgency etched in her every word. "Don't let anyone take that voice away." As the scene unfolded, I suddenly became aware of the eyes on us, the whispers, the narrowed gazes of the onlookers whispering doubts, condemning silently. I clawed at my own emotions, torn between safety and the fragile moment Leah had embraced. Then came a flash, a sudden realization washed over me. The weight of the world rested upon that very moment. If Leah could find her voice amidst the chaos, perhaps she could also help mend Jojo. But could we bear the darkness that must come first? Just as I prepared to make a decision, the paramedics arrived, bursting through the crowd like a tidal wave, as sirens faded and urgency surged. "Step back, please! Make way!" they shouted, their faces masked with determination. In the whirlwind, my grip on Leah tightened, and she looked up at me, her expression a mix of despair and fierce determination. "Help, Jojo!" she cried out again, her voice more firm this time. In that moment, I felt a spark of courage ignite, a connection forming anew, as if I weren't alone for the first time in years. "All right, Leah," I whispered back, equal parts of fear and love surging through me. "Let us find a way." And just as we stepped forward, determined to wade back into this storm, I caught a glimpse of a figure hidden near the edge of the throng, shadows masking their features, but their presence ignited an electric chill in my spine. It was as if the universe conspired to throw more stakes into the fire. I took a breath, part of me drawn toward the mystery at the fringes of the scene, caught between helping Leah and the dark figure pulling at my instincts. I had no idea what this person meant for us, but one thing was certain: our journey was about to plunge into uncharted waters. The wind whipped around us, carrying a cacophony of voices and murmurs that clashed violently with the pounding in my chest. My eyes darted back to Leah, still calling for Jojo, her tiny form so brave amidst the chaos. A wave of determination surged through me, enough to make me push further into the swirling crowd as we navigated the sea of anxious faces drawn together by tragedy. The paramedics advanced, their professionalism lending a stark contrast to the confusion and chaos. The urgency of their movements reignited Leah's resolve, and I watched with conflicting emotions as she began to step closer to Jojo's side, as if drawn like a moth to the flame. I wanted to protect her, to shield her from this pain, yet I couldn't help but admire her fierce spirit in this wretched moment. "Leah, stay with me," I urged softly, my voice barely escaping my lips. I wished for my own courage to match hers. I had never known a moment like this before, where hope flickered amidst despair, challenging everything I feared. "Let me help her, Mommy, please." Leah's voice wavered, trembling with a fierce convictions that I both treasured and feared. My heart ached. She wanted to do the thing I most longed to do, to help. But how could a child carry the weight of another's pain? Just as I felt the resolve blooming within me falter, a sudden hush fell over the crowd. Bella's voice echoed softly through the gathering twilight. The weight of her worry wrapped around me like a tightening cloak. "She's strong, Leah," she whispered, her gaze unwavering as she crouched down beside Jojo, lips pressed tightly in a thin line. "But we need to give her space to breathe." It was a moment of surrender, of understanding that both Leah and I needed more time to let the reality sink in. Time we didn't know we had. But as I turned to look back at the mysterious figure lurking near the park's edge, curiosity tugged at me like an insistent child. The figure was cloaked in shadows yet emitted an undeniable energy that both intrigued and unnerved me. Then a shriek pierced the air, a sound that sent a collective shiver through the crowd. My attention snapped back to Jojo. Her pallor was alarming, yet I caught a flicker of movement from Bella, who instinctively pressed a hand on Jojo's chest, as if willing the girl's life force back with sheer will alone. It pained me to witness the helplessness in her eyes, and I felt an urge, a raw, visceral need to step closer, to anchor them both. Before I knew it, I was moving against my better judgment, pushing forward through the throng. "Is she okay?" I blurted out, my impulse overwhelming my fear. The words escaped like an anguished prayer, but just then, a hand tightened into my own. Leah had come alongside me, her grip fierce, grounding me in a way I hadn't anticipated. "We have to do something, Mommy," she cried, desperation cracking her voice, the urgency piercing through me like shards of glass. "Okay, sweetheart," I breathed, feeling the weight of what lay ahead. But what? In that moment, the dark figure caught my gaze again. They had stepped closer into the fading light, their features slowly revealing themselves, dark skin framed by wild, beautiful curls. Eyes reflecting both sorrow and resilience met my own, challenging me to step past fear and embrace whatever this moment held. But before I could fix my intention on them, the sirens blared back to life, a ghastly reminder of the gravity surrounding us. I heard whispers ripple through the crowd. "She's not breathing." They might. A surge of panic gripped my heart as I turned back to see the paramedics spring into action once more. Bella's face was pale, her hands trembling as she held Jojo's lifeless form against her. "Please, just stay with us," she murmured, almost a chant. "Mommy, let us do something. We can't just watch." Leah's voice trembled, her little body vibrating with an energy fueled by fear and hope. And in that very moment, my instinct pulled me closer to Bella, but with Leah anchoring me, I realized our two lives had intertwined in a startling way. This darkness threatened to consume us, but perhaps it could give way to something raw, something beautiful, if we dared to confront it. "Leah," I whispered, glancing down at her, my heart swelling with both fear and a burgeoning sense of bravery, "you're right. We need to find a way." Just as I resolved to take a step forward with Leah, grounded in her childlike innocence and determined spirit, a loud crash echoed behind us, a commotion erupting near the entrance of the park. I spun around just in time to see the dark figure I had glimpsed earlier, now breaking free from the crowd, charging toward the chaos without hesitation. My heart leapt into my throat. An overwhelming wave of uncertainty crashed over me. What if they were connected to this madness in some unexpected way? And Leah, sensing my distress, tightened her grip on my hand as I hesitated. "Mommy, go!" she urged again, her voice steady. But before I could respond, a realization settled heavily. I may be tethered to fear, but Leah had emerged so bravely, as a beacon of light through this murky darkness. Whatever might lie ahead, whatever twist awaited us, I felt an insurmountable urge to accompany her into the unknown. As the shadows deepened, I inhaled sharply, my heart racing in solidarity with Leah's courage. With her voice rising like a phoenix, I realized the journey wouldn't just be ours to bear alone, but perhaps a collective tapestry, woven with lives intertwined, illuminating even the darkest corners. But as we moved towards the unknown, I felt the hair on the back of my neck prickling, a whisper of something insidious lurking beyond the chaos, an unseen depth of danger that would unfurl with unrelenting force. And as we delved closer into this new reality, a single thought circled in my mind: we may very well be on the brink of a reckoning, and the truth hiding in the shadows could change everything forever. The atmosphere shifted around us as the cacophony from the park built into a frenzy, more alive than ever before. Every heartbeat reverberated against the chaos, and I felt as though the ground trembled beneath my feet, a rhythm of desperation mixed with the unquenchable thirst for hope. "Stay close to me, Leah," I urged, clenching her hand as we pushed through the throng. My resolve faltered at each shout and wail, pulling at my heart with threads of fear. I could see Leah's small figure almost dwarfed by the growing surge of people, another tiny warrior among so many battling their own storms. We navigated the crowd, inching toward Bella and Jojo, but the entrance, where the dark figure had vanished, swallowed all my attention. The instinct to protect Leah from the unknown battled fiercely with my curiosity about what this figure could bring to our tangled fates. Though I told myself to stay focused on Jojo, part of me couldn't shake the feeling that this stranger held a key to something crucial, something that could shift everything we believed about this night, about ourselves. Light flickered across Leah's face as the emergency lights bathed the surroundings in an eerie glow, both illuminating and deepening the shadows in the corners of my mind. I could sense Leah's unwavering spirit beginning to wane, fatigue and worry clouding her youthful optimism. With every moment that passed, dread settled in a vicious knot tightening around my heart as I felt time slipping away. Suddenly, Bella's voice rang out, sharper now, slicing through the noise. "Jojo, please! Fight! Stay with me!" Bella's hands were trembling, and despite her desperation, I could see she was trying hard to summon strength. The urgent professionals around her were doing everything in their power, but with each passing second, I could sense the gravity of Jojo's struggle weighing heavily, and with it, my own heart contorted in agony. Mommy Leah's voice cracked as she pulled me slightly closer. "What if she doesn't make it?" It was a question that cut deep, her words steeped in a painful understanding that only a child could grasp amidst the stark reality unfolding around us. "She has to," I choked out. "She just has to." I pressed Leah's hand tighter, hoping my conviction would shield her from the desperation creeping into my own soul. And then, like a light piercing the fog, a beautiful woman emerged from the crowd, her presence commanding grace amidst the turmoil. She moved with purpose, her eyes scanning the scene until they settled on Leah and me. She approached us with a calmness that was almost surreal, reaching out to offer a comforting smile that momentarily eased the fears clawing at my insides. "Children are stronger than we give them credit for," she said softly, kneeling before Leah, her voice a soothing balm in the storm. "Sometimes, they find courage when we least expect it." Leah blinked back tears, and I felt hope igniting like a spark in my chest. Maybe this was exactly what we needed, just a glimmer of light, a reminder that strength could surface in even the darkest places. Just then, a wave of sound surged through the crowd as the paramedics gained ground. I felt the air grow heavy with anticipation, apprehension, and with something raw, a collective yearning for life against all odds. And then, without warning, a hushed gasp traveled through the throng. With little discretion, I pushed onward to get a better view, but my heart dropped as Bella's anguished face came into focus. She had grasped Jojo's small hands, fingers intertwined with a fierce tenderness that could only be born of deep love. "You're strong, sweetheart," she murmured, her tears sparkling like stars in the chaos. Yet as hope surged, I felt a chill sweep over me, a low, disruptive whisper that brought with it the unsettling reality of how fragile joy could be. Just then, the air crackled with an unexpected sound, like glass shattering, and as I spun around, I found the dark figure from earlier standing behind me. "Help me get her out of here," they yelled, a fire igniting in their voice that held both anguish and urgency. My breath caught in my throat as the crowd parted in instinctual acknowledgement of something ominous that felt close, looming over us like a predator. "What do you mean?" I stammered, instinctively taking a step back, uncertain of the intentions of this sudden arrival. But then I glanced at Leah, whose wide eyes brimmed with a mixture of fear and determination. "In my bag," the figure said, their face a deeply etched map of worry. "I have something crucial. Please, we can't waste any more time." The gravity of the moment crashed upon me, and I saw something flickering between us, a desperate hope laced with an urgency like none I had felt before. "Mommy, we have to." Leah pulled, her voice rising anew as she cast a glance back at Jojo. My heart screamed in protest, torn between trusting this stranger and protecting my child from potential danger. Before I could fully process the implications of the choice at hand, the figure moved closer, expression unyielding as they leaned in. "I can help her. I promise. But you have to trust me right now." My mind raced, instant clashes of doubt and fear battling recklessly. Was this stranger truly the answer to our prayers, or a harbinger of something more sinister? Before I could respond, the crowd surged again, the panic cycling through them, as a sudden clattering drew their attention to the edges of the crowd where chaos threatened to spiral out of control. Instinctively, I felt a pulse of courage swell deep within me. "Leah, whatever happens, I want to let go of your hand." As we moved toward the chaos with higher stakes than ever, my eyes locked with the dark figure. Okay, I breathed, my heart pounding. We'll find a way together. And in that fleeting moment, I could not shake the feeling that we stood on the brink of a collision of truths unveiled and hidden fears resurfacing. As the shadows of the park loomed ever closer, I felt we were not just confronting our own fears, but stepping into an unsung reckoning that could change everything we believed, forever. The moment I agreed to follow the dark figure, I could feel the world shift beneath me, a strange alchemy of dread and anticipation mixing within my gut. We weaved through the crowd, bodies colliding, voices raised in a cacophony of chaos, yet in that maelstrom, Leah's hand remained a lifeline. I could see the shadow of trepidation flit across her small, determined face, and felt a ripple of resolve wash over me. "Mommy, are we really going to help Jojo?" Leah's voice was small, but her grip tightened, defiant against the swell of uncertainty that coursed through us both. "Of course," I replied, injecting as much confidence into my tone as I could muster. My mind swarmed with questions. Who was this person? What could they possibly have in their bag that could offer hope? But in our urgency, deeper thoughts were silenced, overshadowed by the immediacy of our goal. We finally reached the figure's bag, a battered messenger satchel that felt like it had traveled far more than just distances. They unzipped it with frantic precision, revealing an assortment of items, vials filled with shimmering liquids that caught the emergency lights, handwritten notes crumpled and dog-eared, and wrapped in fraying fabric, a small music box. The sight sent a pulse of recognition through me. Jojo had loved music, often singing herself to sleep, her laughter like notes dancing in the air. "Trust me," the figure said again, their eyes pleading as they reached for one of the vials, its contents swirling with an unearthly glow. "It's a tonic I found. You need to understand. I watched my daughter fight something similar. It saved her life." As they spoke, the weight of their words bore down on me, igniting a flicker of hope amidst my encroaching dread and disbelief. But as I glanced back at Jojo, lying helplessly, I churned beneath the heavy armor of doubt. "Will it work?" I questioned, my voice barely a whisper amidst the chaos. "Hope is all we have." "Hope and love," they replied softly, eyes darting towards Jojo with an intensity one had rarely seen. "Please." Behind us, the crowd swelled, drowning us in their despair and restless energy. Leah's presence beside me became an anchor, a reminder of what was at stake. "Mommy, I believe in hope," she said, breaking through my inner turmoil with a fierce truth that made my heart swell. In that fleeting moment, I remembered the countless nights we had spent snuggled together, whispering dreams and planting seeds of hope in her young heart. As I turned back, I felt my resolve harden. "Okay," I breathed, the decision solidifying in my chest. "You win. Let us do this." The figure nodded, swift as lightning, preparing the vial, while I felt my hands grow clammy, driven by the electricity of urgency. Leah's hand squeezed mine tighter, as if she too stood at the precipice of something monumental. "Bella!" I shouted, hoping my voice would slice through the overwhelming din. "Where are you?" Bella's tear-streaked face emerged from the crowd, her breath hitching in her throat. "What are you doing?" she choked out, eyes darting between Jojo and the dark figure. The vulnerability in her gaze only deepened my determination. "We're going to help her. Just trust me on this," I implored, desperate to pull her onto our side. "Help her with what?" Bella demanded, watching in disbelief as the figure extended the vial toward Jojo. "Just watch," I urged, and she hesitated, torn between skepticism and the faint heartbeat of hope that echoed within our shared plight as parents. In that moment, the air crackled anew, an unsettling energy stirring within and around us. But before I could instruct the figure to proceed, a heavy hand pressed down on my shoulder, pulling me back with alarming force. "Stop!" a gruff voice barked, sending shivers down my spine. An officer with a furrowed brow and determination in his gaze stepped into our makeshift circle. "What is happening here?" My heart raced. Was this an interruption we couldn't afford? Was the clock running out on JoJo? "We're trying to help her," I exclaimed, turning my pleading gaze toward the officer. "Please, we need this." It could make a difference. As the officer studied our expressions, a tapestry of fear, desperation, and unmistakable determination, I could almost see his resolve beginning to waver. But just then, chaos erupted again, as a sudden ruckus spilled from the far end of the park. A body collided with the barricades, screams shattering the air like glass splintering into a million fragile pieces. "Get everyone out of here," the officer shouted, and the crowd began to scramble, panic igniting like a wildfire. "Mommy!" Leah cried out, pulling at me with insistent urgency. And then, I felt a dawning realization that eclipsed everything else. This moment was spiraling towards something beyond our grasp. The urgency to help JoJo now intertwined with the chaos threatening everything we held dear. With the final thread of hope unraveling before me, I turned back to the dark figure, ready to make a choice that could alter our fate forever. "Are you ready?" I breathed, knowing that whatever happened next could change everything for Leah, for us all. But just as the words left my lips, a deafening roar swept through the crowd, drowning out reason as I faced the figure. "I can help you," they added, desperate urgency in their eyes. "But we need to go now, before it's too late." Time hung suspended in that breathless space between the rise of despair and the whisper of hope, moments ticking away like grains of sand slipping through my fingers. In that potency of uncertainty, I took a step toward the dark figure, toward the chaos, and toward an answer I desperately hoped to find. Yet as fear swirled and shadows loomed, I sensed fate tightening its grip, preparing to unleash a storm none of us were prepared to face. The moment we surged forward, a cacophony of screams and cries echoed through the park, drowning every thought in a torrent of despair. The officer's commanding voice cut through the chaos, a brittle line between order and the overwhelming tide threatening to devour us whole. Leah, clinging to me, felt the tremors of uncertainty coursing through the air, and in return, I wrapped my arms around her tightly, a desperate shield against the world collapsing at our feet. "Mommy, what is happening?" she whimpered, wide eyes reflecting the shifting shadows that danced across the chaos. "We'll be okay, Leah." "I promise," I replied, though my heart raced with uncertainty. I wasn't quite sure if I could keep that promise. The dark figure, now shrouded in shadows, seemed to pulse with an urgency of his own, the forgotten vial clutched tight in his grasp. "We don't have much time. If we don't act now," the thread hung in the air, a weighty truth I dared not articulate. "Are you sure that will help JoJo?" Bella queried, skepticism lacing her voice as the world spun around us, rending any assurance I had hoped to find. "Hope is precious, and we have to cling to it," the figure breathed, his expression grave, yet flickering with an ember of conviction. "Please trust me. I lost someone I loved in the same way you could lose JoJo." Leah tugged my sleeve, an insistence I felt in my bones. "Mommy, what about JoJo?" she pleaded, the desperation cutting deeper than any knife. For her sake, for JoJo's, I steeled my resolve. "Okay, let us do it," I said, my voice stronger than I felt. I had to let go of my fears in that split second, to believe in the whispers of hope Leah had planted in my heart long ago. As the figure prepared to administer the tonic, the grasp of fear was momentarily tempered by the whispers of potential healing, as if we stood on the precipice of something greater. But those hopes were abruptly dashed as the crowd surged forward. The officer shouted again, trying to restore some flicker of calm, but the din grew impossibly loud. Then, everything exploded. Chaos erupted. The crowd, spurred by panic, began to push and shove as they fought for safety. My blood turned to ice as I lost sight of Bella. The officer lost his composure as individuals broke free, dashing toward the exits, and my heart leaped into my throat. "Leah, we need to find Jojo," I cried, in a voice that barely rose above the noise. I turned, desperately searching for any sign of our friend, yet the crowd became an ocean, swallowing all hope. "Mommy! Look!" Leah pointed just as something caught her eye, a flicker of movement atop the swaying mass of bodies, and I felt my heart clench. There, amidst the chaos, I spotted Jojo as still form, the little girl who had brought so much joy into our lives, lying helplessly on the ground. My heart pounded a cruel rhythm as I surged through the throng, Leah holding tight to my hand. "Stay close," I ordered, shoving my way through the tumultuous sea of panic, propelled by adrenaline and a primal need to protect. But the tide of desperation was relentless. "Get away from her!" A shout echoed from behind as an angry figure emerged through the crowd, rushing toward us, fueled by a frenzy of protective instinct. It was a distraught mother, their eyes wild with fear, and for a split moment, I faltered, trying to comprehend the imminent confrontation. The moment stretched out, thick with tension and dread. Just as the woman approached, a strong hand seized my arm. It was the officer again, his gaze locked onto mine, as if searching my very soul for a belief still lingering within me. "I can't let you take that. It's too dangerous," he growled, his voice rising above the clamor. "You need to get your daughter to safety." "But Jojo needs us," I cried, wrestling against the grip, a torrent of fear and defiance surging inside me like a storm. "You don't understand, she is dying." "I understand enough," the officer replied, desperation lining his brow. "And if it's as serious as you say, we cannot risk more lives being lost." In this frantic exchange, Leah tugged on my hand, drawing my gaze with her soft, imploring voice. "Mommy, please." In her eyes was an understanding beyond her years, a yearning for connection and action that anchored me. As the officer's plea faded, the reality of our impossible situation settled over me like a heavy shroud. In that instant, a flicker of motion caught my peripheral vision. The dark figure had slipped away, and I could feel the threads of fate pulling us apart. "Leah, it's now or never," I shouted, determination igniting my spirit. "We have to help Jojo." And as I pulled Leah into a sprint toward our friend, I felt the fierce thrum of hope buoying me up, pushing us to do the impossible. But as we reached Jojo, eyes closed and breath stilled, the oppressive weight of reality pressed down. I knelt by her side, heart racing, panic laced through the air. And just as I reached for her, a soft whisper caught in the winds, echoing a warning I didn't understand. "Mommy! Look!" Leah wailed, pointing. What lay before us now was not merely the fight for life. It revealed a truth that sank deeper than hope, a buried secret waiting to unfurl, binding us to our fractured destinies. The world quaked, and as I turned, I faced an unimaginable truth. Jojo wasn't just another child. There was a connection deeper than any of us had known, a revelation that could either save us or break us entirely. As I stood, the winds howled as if mocking our plight, igniting a storm of uncertainty, a question we would need to confront or be lost forever. The officer's grip on reason frayed, just as ours did, shifting the fabric of all we clung to. Time held its breath, and with it came a truth I couldn't bear, lurking in the shadows, waiting to be unveiled. We were teetering on the precipice, uncertain of what we would find on the other side. The air crackled with tension, and I struggled to process the churning emotion swirling around me. As Leah's shrill cries filled my ears, I felt a mixture of fierce love and fear erupting within my chest. Jojo lay lifeless on the ground, a fragile innocence slipping through our fingers like sand as I glanced at the shadows deepening around us, where the world seemed to twist into something unrecognizable. "Mommy, what are we going to do?" Leah's voice, tinged with panic, snapped me back to the present. Her small hand squeezed mine so tightly, I could almost feel the pulse of her determination through the fear. At that moment, I caught sight of an elderly woman, her white hair framing a worried face, desperately trying to reach Jojo as she crawled through the crowd. "Help me! Someone please!" she cried out, her frail voice heightened with urgency. It wasn't until her eyes met mine that I realized who she was. Jojo's grandmother, a kind soul I'd often seen at the park, knitting quietly on a bench while the children played. In that instant, an inexplicable bond formed between us, my heart swelling with a need to unite our efforts against the tide of despair. "Let us help her," I urged Leah, and without hesitation, we darted forward, weaving through the chaos, determined to bring Jojo back to life. The frantic energy of the scene pulsed around us, chaos and grief spiraling in a dance far too familiar. Leah's grip never wavered as we reached Jojo's grandmother, who sank to the ground beside her granddaughter, tears streaming down her cheeks in a heartbreaking cascade. "Jojo, my angel, please." The grandmother's voice cracked, filled with a raw vulnerability that cut through my own fear. Leah knelt beside her, one small hand resting gently on Jojo's forehead. It was a tender gesture, whispering a quiet kind of love that seemed to flicker in the air like a promise. "Jojo, wake up," Leah murmured, her voice soft yet strong, as if she could bridge the gap between life and death with sheer will alone. As I watched, my heart clenched. Here was my daughter, usually so reserved, voicing her heart in a moment where hope felt nearly extinguished. "Keep talking to her, Leah," I encouraged, the tremble in my own voice a fragile shield against the looming despair. "I miss you, Jojo. Remember when we played Tea Party? You said I could be the queen?" Leah's face, etched with sincerity, radiated an unexpected light in the darkness, and I felt something shift within the crowd's restless energy. An echo of connection lingered, a stifled tenderness spilling out around us. The officer hovered nearby, his expression battling between authority and compassion, as he caught a glimpse of Leah's fierce determination. Perhaps he too was reminded that children often held truths adults forgot amidst the chaos of life. As I breathed in the faint scent of grass, and whatever remnants of joy remained in the air, it struck me. We wouldn't just fight for Jojo, but we would also fight for each other, and the bonds we shared, an undeniable web of love that held us together, strong even in the face of calamity. A subtle shift quivered through the crowd. I saw others beginning to kneel, creating a kind of circle, connecting in solidarity. It was a moment of shared empathy, humanity rising amidst fear, transforming the chaotic shrieks into whispers of hope. "Come on, Jojo!" Leah's voice burst forth, louder this time, a fierce invitation against the shadows creeping ever closer. "You have to come back to us. We need you." But then, before I could grasp the threads of our shared hope, a figure materialized to the side, weaving through the crowd with an unsettling purpose. It was the dark figure, the one from moments before. He moved like a wisp of smoke, and my heart raced in recognition. "Stop!" he shouted, piercing through the fragile layer of tranquility that was knitting around us. His eyes gleamed with an intensity that sent a chill down my spine. "You don't understand what she is. It's not what you think." What did he mean? The sudden tension in the air felt electric, pulsing with fear and wonder. 1,000 questions rushed to my mind, reframing everything, urging me to consider the reality I had chosen to ignore. "Get away from her!" Jojo's grandmother bellowed, instinctively shielding her grandchild as rage flickered in her weary eyes. "Jojo holds a power you cannot comprehend." The figure pressed on, his voice rising above the turmoil. "Her fate is intertwined with forces far beyond this moment. You have to let her go." As I stood, paralyzed by the weight of his revelation, Leah's small voice cut through the fog of confusion. "No. Jojo is our friend. She can't be taken from us. We've fought too hard. But the crowd's energy shifted, doubt threading through them, weaving a new layer to the fear that had once only been about our collective panic. Whispers began to ripple, uncertainty unsettling the fragile hope Leah had anchored within us. The world around me felt as if it were tilting, and I grasped Leah's hand tighter, feeling the pulse of her belief grounding me. But in that instant, a seismic shift uncoiled within me, as the truth revealed itself, a voiceless invitation to turn toward a path I never anticipated. JoJo's life resonated deeper than anything I could ever have imagined. And suddenly, the fight wasn't just about saving one life. It was about awakening a truth that had long been dormant. The dark figure's next words echoed through me with an unrelenting intensity as he leaned closer. You have to choose wisely, or you may lose everything. With that, my chest constricted as panic surged, a flood of dread washing over me. What was I willing to sacrifice? What unseen bonds had been tangled in our lives' paths? The answer loomed before me like a gaping chasm, and as the frail fabric of the moment threatened to tear, I was caught in a whirlwind of choices, a choice that could either heal or destroy us all, hanging in the balance of what awaited on the precipice. The chill of the figure's ominous warning echoed in my mind, as though it had carved itself into the marrow of my bones. You have to choose wisely, or you may lose everything. At that moment, reality shifted, unveiling the deeper layers of our tangled lives. I looked at Leah, whose tiny face was scrunched in determination. Her innocence, however, was now tainted with fear. The crisis had become something infinitely heavier than the plight of her friend. It was enveloping us all, blurring the lines of our existence.
What does he mean?
I whispered more to myself than anyone else, the words barely escaping my lips like a prayer for clarity. JoJo's grandmother, cradling her granddaughter's limp form, turned fierce eyes towards me, the fire of a deep-rooted love igniting within them. Are you listening to him? He is trying to sow doubt. JoJo needs us. Let us not give up hope, she shouted, her voice a raw mix of maternal anger and despair. Just listen. The dark figure persisted, advancing cautiously. She is caught in something that transcends this moment. You must grasp the weight of that connection before trying to pull her back. The onlookers, who had gathered in solidarity, began to murmur among themselves. Their whispers were a blend of confusion and curiosity. Their faith wavered as they clung to their own emotions. And unease grew, dragging at the frayed edges of whatever hope we had woven amongst ourselves. "Mommy," Leah whispered, her voice trembling now, "what if he is right? What if JoJo is?" She trailed off, her fear radiating through the connection of our clasped hands. "No, we can't think like that," I exclaimed, though my own heart was twisting under the weight of uncertainty. Could JoJo's fate genuinely hold a power beyond our grasp? And what of the bond one felt with JoJo's grandmother, a bond forged in the crucible of shared trauma and fear for our children? Before I could ponder further, the crowd shifted. A young man stepped forward from the murmuring mass, his brow knitted in thought.
"What do you suggest we do, then?"
He probed the figure, piercing the veil of hesitation that snaked through us. His bravery resonated, igniting a flickering flame of courage. If JoJo possesses something special, we need to know how to help her. The dark figure paused, as if weighing the essence of our resolve. There are forces at work, threads that connect not only JoJo, but all of you to a greater tapestry and intricate weaving of fate. To save her may require an understanding of the truth she guards. What truth? The words escaped my lips before I could hold them back. A desperate need for clarity surged within me, ignited by Leah's innocent belief.
"Tell us."
"Love isn't the only force that gives life," he responded, his tone guarded as he scanned our faces, studying the hope glimmering in our eyes.
"Fear, anger, grief, they can bind a soul or release it. JoJo is trapped in a cycle, and her potential is somehow entwined with her pain. You must confront the sources holding her back." It was as if a dam had been breached. Agony spilled from the crowd, stories intertwined in the air like threads of a nightmare. One mother recounted losing her son to despair, her voice trembling with the weight of her confession. I tried to shield him from pain, but all I did was draw him deeper into the darkness, she mumbled, tears cascading like rain. The energy in the crowd surged, sorrow becoming a tidal wave washing over us. I felt Leah's hand slip from mine as she was drawn to the mother, her innate compassion steering her. "It's okay," Leah said, kneeling down beside the grieving woman. "He is still with you, just like Jojo is still here with us." As Leah's small voice emerged like a beautiful note in a dissonant chord, I watched her transform from my frightened daughter to a lighthouse in the storm, guiding others through their tempestuous hearts. In the silence that came after her words, I realized the impact of what Leah offered, the permission to feel, to confront loss, not in isolation, but together. Her innocence became armor, deflecting the dark shadows that threatened to engulf us all, but the figure's gaze hardened as he glanced between Leah and the mother. "There is a cost for healing power," he warned, his voice low and steady, reverberating within the stillness dwellers were desperate to impose. "You may awaken forces within yourselves that cannot be tamed, and once invoked, you cannot uncall them. Are you ready for such a gift?" With renewed vigor, I faced the dark figure. "What do we need to do?" My heart raced as the gravity of the moment settled in, the choice before us pressing like a boulder on my chest. I looked at Leah, who anxiously clutched the mother's hand, absorbing the unspoken exchanges just beneath the surface. "Do you wish to confront the truths that scar her?" he challenged, stepping closer, riveted. "Do you understand what it might unleash?" My eyes shifted toward Jojo, her pale face a symbol of our shared hopes and fears. In that moment, I let the waves of grief churn within me, crashing against the walls I'd built. "Yes," I breathed. "We are ready. We'll face whatever this truth entails." But as those words escaped my lips, the figure's expression morphed into something unreadable, skirting around the edges of ominous knowledge. "Then prepare to unravel the tapestry," he cautioned. "For what you will uncover may turn your world upside down." Before I could comprehend his warning, tremors of energy rippled through the air, and suddenly, a flicker of bright light burst forth from Jojo's form, illuminating the darkness that wrapped around us. I felt the ground quake beneath us, and everything slowed, caught in a moment where the possibilities of salvation and destruction crackled in the air, and then, as the light stretched toward the sky, an uproar cascaded. A symphony of cries, gasps, and whispers of realization erupted from the crowd. Leah turned to me, her eyes wide with awe, mirroring my dawning terror. A truth wasted no time in clawing its way to the surface. As the light began to pull the shadows away, a shattering clarity washed over me, but it came at a cost, a price I had yet to fully comprehend. And as I steeled myself for what lay ahead, a chilling thought stumbled forth. What if the truths surrounding Jojo could unravel everything I had ever known, reshaping not just our stories, but our identities in ways we could hardly fathom? My heart raced, anticipation twisting tight within me, as I braced for the truth to reveal its face, a face that might haunt me long after this momentous night faded into memory. In the luminous chaos enveloping Jojo, I could see the shadows of fear etched into the faces around me, parents clutching children, friends holding each other tightly, all of us teetering on the precipice of revelation. I felt Leah's small hand still in mine, grounding me in a world that seemed to vibrate from the sheer weight of what lay ahead. As tendrils of light twisted through the dark like whispers of hope, uncertainty dug its claws deep into my soul. Then, without warning, Jojo's eyes opened, glistening spheres of bewilderment met ours, and the light drew nearer, as if it were a creature of its own intent on consuming everything in its path. The moment solidified, breath caught in my throat, an involuntary prayer tethered to the depths of my being. "Jojo?" Leah's voice trembled, a fragile thing in the storm of emotions. "Are you okay?" For a heartbeat,
All that could be heard was the quiet thrum of energy swirling above us, like a heartbeat echoing the deepest roots of truth that lay in our shadowed pasts. The air vibrated with unexpressed words, and it felt as if names long forgotten hovered just beneath the surface of our consciousness, itching to break free. "Do you see her?" Jojo's grandmother gasped, her voice cracking like brittle glass. With each moment, the light began to illuminate not only Jojo, but the souls around us, a patchwork of grief and strength, despair and love. I caught the mother gazing at her daughter, a flicker of something burning in her eyes, a profound sense of reawakening perhaps, or the harrowing realization of all she had carried. "Jojo, please," the grandmother urged, her emotion cutting a sharp line through the uncertainty. "Speak to us. Show us that you're still here." But before Jojo could respond, now tethered to some otherworldly force, my attention was drawn to the corners of the flickering light. Shadows twisted into images past moments, fragments of my own childhood rising to greet me like long-lost friends. Dark memories of loss and heartache whispered secrets that pricked at the edges of my awareness. And then, a voice cut through, the voice of a woman I had nearly forgotten, vibrant, strong, yet layered with pain. "You must confront what you buried deep," the voice echoed in my mind, as if it belonged to a deity that had known me in my most vulnerable state. "You cannot shield them from the truth. Your past is a thread in their tapestry. And to shield them is to choke the life from that which makes them whole." A flicker of understanding surged within me, reaffirming the dark figure's words. The forces at play weren't only external. They rose from deep within, swirling around our insecurities, our regrets, our crumbling hearts. And when the light finally engulfed Jojo completely, it wasn't merely an illumination. It was transformative, a bridge connecting our fears to our courage, merging our past experiences with the essence of hope that pulses insistently at the heart of love. I felt my breath hitch as a manifestation of truth cracked open the barrier I had built. "Lily, look!" Leah cried, breaking free from my grasp for a moment. Her small frame pushed through the throng, moving closer to Jojo. She looked so beautiful. But the beauty I perceived hinged on the precipice of turmoil. The shadows cast from Jojo's body rippled and shifted, revealing silhouettes of our collective pain. I could see them now, the hidden stories of mothers who fought relentlessly against grief, of fathers who lost more than just their children, and of children trapped in silence, desperate to be heard. Jojo suddenly gasped, her frail hands reaching as if grasping for something we couldn't see. "I can hear them," she stammered, her voice breaking the spell that had gripped the crowd. "I know what they want." And then it was as if a veil had lifted. Whispers of the past intertwined with the present. Specters of those long gone surged into view, illuminating forgotten faces, each an echo of unresolved heartache. I found myself gasping, finally understanding the chorus woven among us. The memories sorrowful, the burdens heavy. And each thread was pulling us closer toward a revelation that trembled fearfully at the edge of our consciousness. "Jojo!" I shouted, my raw voice cutting through the cacophony, but it felt more like a desperate plea than an anchor. "What are they telling you?" She looked at me then, with eyes colored by determination. "They want to be free, Mommy. But I'm scared. They say I must share their truth." The weight of her words settled on my heart like stone, igniting a flicker of reverence in the air around us. My heart raced not from fear, but reverence for what she was set to unveil. Suddenly, darkness withdrawal was swift. The light bled brightly, holding our gaze captive before plunging us into shadow again. In that instant, the chorus of whispers twisted into a guttural sound, as if they were crying out to be heard, demanding recognition of their existence. The figure emerged from the depth of the light, now taller, more imposing, and as the veil shifted, I understood that this was the moment of choice, the clearing of the air or a descent into the abyss. And then, without warning, Jojo fell silent, an eerie hush claiming her voice. The truth trapped within. "Jojo!" I cried, dread clenching around my heart like a vice. But in the echo of that silence, I felt it deep and insistent, the unmistakable rumble of realization clawing toward a revelation darker than I could bear. What truth lay within JoJo that could weave through both pain and power? And in doing so, what would it ask of me? Just as I was about to move toward her, the shadows surged, threatening to consume us all, leaving me grasping in the darkness. Leah's hand was back in mine, her little fingers trembling. "Mommy, what is happening?" As the echoes of the spectral voices filled my ears, I glanced back at the figure, and in that moment, I realized the price of this clarity. We were set to confront a truth that might shatter us. A truth that might transform all we knew about love, loss, and the irrevocable ties that bind our lives together. And just as sorrow began to seep into the fractures of hope, a shockwave reverberated through the crowd, sending us all stumbling back. With one last desperate plea, I knew there would be no way out without venturing into the unknown, no choice but to embrace whatever mystery awaited us, a realization propelling me headfirst into darkness. As the light shifted and the shadows howled, I looked into Leah's eyes, and then JoJo's, understanding that our lives were about to change forever. With a pounding heart, I braced myself for the truth to break free, and the world as I knew it began to unravel, leaving behind the comfort of certainty. The silence that enveloped us was deafening, pressing down like the weight of all our fears. I could feel the tension coiling tighter, wrapping itself around our hearts as we stared at JoJo, her small body still and vulnerable in the burgeoning light. There was a charge in the air, a sense that something monumental was about to be revealed. "JoJo!" I called again, my voice cutting through the stillness, echoing the desperation thrumming in my chest. The shadows danced ominously around us, flickering at the periphery of my vision, deepening my unease. "Please," Leah murmured, her small hand trembling as she clung to mine. I could hear the unvoiced prayers woven into her words, the same mix of hope and fear that coursed through me. Would JoJo truly share the truth, and what would that truth reveal? JoJo's eyes fluttered open once more, and in that moment, everything seemed to breathe. "I can hear them," she whispered, her voice a mere wisp of sound, fragile yet powerful. "They're asking for forgiveness." A gasp rippled through the crowd, and I felt the air thickening around us, laced with disbelief and a veiled anticipation. Forgiveness? The word fell from my lips, laden with the weight of all we had lost, all we had suffered. But how can we forgive what has caused us so much pain? I turned toward the dark figure, my mind racing to untangle the depths of this revelation. What does it mean? Who is it that JoJo needs to forgive? There was a flicker of movement from JoJo's grandmother, her face somewhere between sheer despair and fierce determination. "Forgiveness," she echoed quietly, brow furrowing. "It comes from understanding the hurt. It releases us from being chained to our grief." JoJo was always the light. In that heartbeat, the truth began unfurling, a recognition that lit a fire behind my ribcage. We were not just fighting for JoJo, but each other, for the relationship splintered by anger and misunderstanding. The truth isn't simply about healing a body. It's about mending a spirit. "JoJo," I urged gently, "can you tell us who it is? Who needs to be set free?" She inhaled deeply, the air shimmering around her, as if charged with the essence of remembrance. "My friends, they'd lost their voices too. They're waiting to tell their stories, to say what they've never said to the ones who hurt them." Tears filled my eyes, understanding washing over me like a tender wave. "They want us to remember them in light, not darkness." Suddenly, the shadows started to sway, intermingling with JoJo's luminescent form, ephemeral figures swirling into view, other children, faces pale and drawn, lost yet pulsing with a need for recognition. My heart ached as they bore witness to lives cut short, fragile souls, bound in pain and memory, watching us tremble under the weight of truths long buried. "JoJo," Leah gasped, her innocence shining through the darkness. "Show us how." In that moment, her small voice became the beacon, guiding us towards something greater than ourselves. I caught a glimmer of hope in the eyes of the onlookers, an understanding blooming in shared grief. "Yes," I implored, words tumbling forth. "Help us see what they need." The moment held its breath, each of us poised on the brink of revelation, ready to step into a world redefined by love, fear, and the indomitable strength we could find together. The figure stepped closer, and I could see the empathy painted across their face, a knowing deeper than my own. To confront the past, they warned softly, is to face the pain that binds us. It requires courage, and it will change everything you hold dear. Then I choose courage, I declared, my voice steady now, fueled by the memory of Leah's smile and the unconditional love threading through my heart. If we are to heal, let us face the truths that haunt us together. As the words left my lips, the shadows coalesced into a tapestry of memories, losses, regrets, and misunderstandings folding into one another like a living map of our collective wounds. Voices rose, whispers transformed into cries, memories of joys mixed with grief flooding the air. Tears streamed down Leah's cheeks as she took a step forward, her spirit unwavering. "You will remember," she pleaded softly, "and we will be free." In that moment, JoJo's eyes shone with an ethereal light, and the air crackled around us as she began to speak, the words flowing like music, resonating deep within our souls. "We forgive you for what you did not see, the pain you could not carry, the voices you chose to ignore." It was as if the world shifted. The shadows intertwined with our forms, threading us together, a new foundation rising from the ashes of our collective heartache. Just then, the spirit of another child whispered from JoJo, their voice woven in with hers, and in doing so, we will heal. As the harmony of voices soared, I felt the truth settle in, unfolding like wildflowers blooming after a long winter. Forgiveness wasn't about absolving others of their actions. It was recognizing the shared humanity that pulsed within us all. It was about understanding that in our pain and darkness, we could either be bound by the chains or set ourselves free by empathizing with the hurt. And then, with a brilliant flash, the light dispersed, illuminating every face that surrounded us. As the last specter vanished, the children, the ones who had suffered beside JoJo, began to smile, and in that smile, I saw the threads of healing weave through the crowd, the shadows dissipating into the warm embrace of understanding. Leah turned to me, her innocence glinting in the aftermath of our reckoning. "Mommy, look," she breathed, her voice laced with wonder. "We did it!" The weight of our journey hung suspended between us, a recognition that echoed softly through the turmoil, reminding me that the power of love knows no bounds. Standing there, amidst the remnants of the chaos, I suddenly felt a profound sense of peace wash over me. The world around us had transformed. The fear and uncertainty that had gripped my heart loosened their hold as clarity and acceptance took root within. I finally understood that true strength lies in vulnerability, in the redemptive power to share our truths, however painful they may be. As we embraced the newfound brightness surrounding us, I took Leah into my arms, feeling the warmth pulsing between our hearts. "You are so brave," I whispered, my voice breaking with emotion. "And so is JoJo. Together, we are stronger." And as we stepped away from the shadows, I knew we would venture forth, hand in hand, ready to continue this journey not just as individuals, but as a community woven together by the bonds of shared love and healing, navigating forward with the understanding that in every silence, there is also a voice waiting patiently to be heard. For sometimes, finding your voice is merely the beginning of a journey toward understanding the depth of connection that unites us all. In this new light, we found the courage to chase the mystery, reminding us that love, even when shadowed by pain, could spark the most profound transformations. As we walked together into our shining tomorrow, I felt an undeniable truth wrap around me. The world was not defined by what had been lost, but rather by what could still be gained through understanding, empathy, and the freedom that lies beyond. And it was in that moment of clarity that I knew we were just beginning to truly live again.